Hello, everybody. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 7 here of the Empire In Exile Podcast. I'm your host, Dorf, and joining me each and every week is Josh. How's it going tonight, Josh? We are on camera for the first time. First time on camera here.
We have faces.
Yeah. Finally got the, this is the first time that I have ever produced a show that I've been simultaneously engaged in, hosted, produced, and ran everything all at once. And this is the first time that I've gotten the technical side figured out of putting us on camera. So, anywho, welcome to the program tonight. We're going to discuss the deceased. So the Chaz. We're recording this on the 1st of July. The Chaz was disabled today, and whether or not a Chaz can exist in America. So the Chaz is 3, 4, 5 week run, whatever it is come to an end. Your thoughts on it in general. So let's just recap it for us, Josh, from your perspective. What happened in Seattle?
The title of our show tonight is a catchy one. Can Chaz be done right? We already know the answer, that Chaz already had its chance and was not done right. But we also know, if we paid attention at all to this over the last few weeks, that it was pretty laughable at times, and the way they went about it was pretty hysterical in a lot of ways. And we know that it was more of a temper tantrum that happened, and they allowed it to happen. So in essence, I equate this to when your kid is at home and they have a temper tantrum, you yell at them or you take them to their room or do whatever you're going to do. But in this case, this is like your kid has a temper tantrum, but you're in Kroger, and you don't want to look like a total jerk parent and really take control of the situation, so you just let it happen no matter how embarrassing it is. And that's kind of like what Chaz was, is that the powers that be felt guilty or felt that they looked bad, so they didn't want to look worse by chastising the Chazers. So instead, they let them go for a little while. So when we say, can Chaz be done right, what we're really asking, can any autonomous zone potentially be done right, and could it actually work in real life context? That make sense?
Yeah, and that's excellent framing of the question there. That's kind of where I wanted to end up. I'm going to argue here tonight that Chazes exist all over the country. It's just, generally speaking, you don't walk into an established city, plop down a tent encampment, and say, "Mine now, gimme stuff." It's they're usually out in Middle America. Somebody buys or somehow acquires a large plot of land, sets up an encampment, or a compound, or whatever you want to call it, and there are many of those that live in commune, compound, or whatever, and they live off the land, and those sort of communes or compounds exist both on the you want to call it the fringe right and the fringe left, and they have for many years. This is just the first time that the LARPers, let's call them, decided that we were gonna that they wanted to try and set up in an established city and to say, "Mine now." And the only reason it was the Chaz was allowed to exist for as long as it did is that it was allowed to. And the second that it was no longer allowed to, you see it folded like a cheap lawn chair, it was dismantled in under an hour.
Yeah. And I'd like to discuss, when it comes to Chaz, the missed opportunity on both sides of this and the mismanagement on both sides of this. Not only was Chaz horribly mismanaged, of course, and like you said, it was, you can't just steal a piece of land, basically. and fence it off and say, this is mine and you can't take it, and then let it go to hell in a matter of 36 hours. But where the statists, if you will, missed an opportunity was, I think initially, this is my opinion now, I think initially they were dumb to let it happen. But then when they did, I could see the benefits of letting it happen. But they didn't let it go long enough. They should have truly let it happen and let them really make a disaster of it in order to totally prove a point. To prove that point that this was pathetic. In my opinion, they should have let them go for 4 or 5 months and wait till, starving Chazers were just begging and pleading to please get out of the gate.
The farming they attempted to do was laughable. They were gonna all eat like 3 pieces of lettuce. They planted enough vegetables, not even like the calorie dense ones, that by planting them manually and harvesting them manually would result in like 100 calorie deficits per unit of food.
Right.
And it would, there was roughly at peak, I believe, 2,500 people in the Chaz. It could have fed like 12 of them for a week.
Right, yeah, they were all going to live off like a half a dozen pieces of lettuce.
Yeah, they lettuce and kale, and it's just like, well, you didn't even, you didn't even plant that stuff right, and B, you got to be doing taters, squash, dense, thick, hearty vegetables, and not to mention,
right, something you can boil along with dirt to give it some flavor, or something, like they used to in the world wars in the trenches and stuff. Get some potato and boil it with some sawdust and make a hearty meal out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you certainly aren't going to get there with lettuce and kale.
Yeah, absolutely not. So.
But do you agree that they would have been better off, that the statists, if you will, would have been better off to let them go for a while? To let this really fail?
I think that let's name the factions here. So Donald Trump, in not exercising federal authority for as long as he did, I think they got the point across to those who would listen, and they got enough footage for their campaign commercials for the rest of the time. I think he let it go on long enough that he got what he needed out of it. Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin should have, if she was smart enough to play the long game, would have killed it immediately, because these aren't dedicated people who live in a commune. There's plenty of successful communist communes operating in the United States. Right. There's plenty of them. They get along with their neighbors. They choose to do what they want to do, and they get left alone. If Jenny Durkin was smart, she would have known this was going to go sideways immediately and would have never allowed it to kick off. Because all you did was essentially give the propaganda win to your political opponents. Yeah, you got to own Trump for 2 days, but then as soon as the first person died, or the first video came out of them beating somebody up, or the first video came out of a scrawny-looking vagrant shitting in the streets, you lost. It was game over.
Right.
You can't... The fact that was allowed to continue beyond that point is just a loss for those in Democrat circles, let's call it, because it right, wrong, or otherwise, there will be a significant amount of the center. This will motivate the right. Significant amount of people in the center will be like, God, those Democrats are fucking crazy, and will then in turn be motivated to vote Republican, and you don't stand to gain anything. After about hour 36, when that first negative headline came out about it.
Right. And I mean, No, and you're good to point out the state perspective, the federal perspective. Whose job is it run the citywide? Whose job is it really to step in and stop this? And that is a tough call. I mean, civic governments don't really have that kind of power. I guess it should really be the state.
Well, they were the ones that broke it up. The city police was the ones that
Right.
rolled in at 5:00 Pacific this morning and said, "You have 5 minutes to get up and get out," and dismantled and rolled the thing in under an hour.
Yeah.
But
And I guess, good for them, I guess.
But Josh, I think the idea of living in a Chaz. I mean, this gets to the concept. You see some people, especially in right-wing internet circles, talk about the potential balkanization of America. Living in a commune or Chaz or autonomous zone of people who are like-minded with you, does that sound appealing, or would you get sick of everybody? If you lived with 200 copies of yourself, would you get sick of it?
No.
No.
I think I'd prefer it. I mean, that's kind of like a why not both question,
Sure.
Like, yes, but I'm pretty much sick of regular life too. So, would I get as sick of it as I get as sick of everything else normally in life? Probably not. I think it'd be preferable.
Okay.
But I don't know.
I think it would be cool, but then there's the ultimate risk of any time you get such groups of like-minded people together, they're very, very prone to purity spirals, and then you end up getting in the I'm the most libertarian, I'm the most conservative, I'm the most nationalist, I'm the most socialist, I'm the best communist, whatever. Dick measuring contests that end and often devolve into violence.
Sure,
I'm not
it's
sure.
like if you've ever been on a. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, it's like if you've ever been on an internet forum, but if you've ever spent any time on Reddit or Twitter.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I've joined groups with like-minded people before, and it instantly just leaves to everybody saying, "You're even libertarian, bro."
Yeah, it's you draw. But my roads, man.
My roads.
My roads, my bridges. Anywho, I think that I don't know that I would like to do it. I think that that this becomes for me from being a for the longest time a fence sitting, middle of the road, wishy-washy, unopinionated person. That I think if I went to where I am now and if there was a group of me's put together in a Chaz, let's say if we got a plot of land in Nebraska or Texas or Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, whatever, I don't know that I'd want to live there. I think the lack of variety would be cool for the beginning, but man, God, that would get old after about 3 to 6 months. I don't know that I want to do it, but at the same time, allowing the chat, I just don't think it will ever happen. I know that it's talked about all the time about the balkanization or potentially of America. I just don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, and actually, in Dorf, I would actually love to have that as the topic, along with the idea, and I don't want to get into this too much because I think it'd be a different show, but the idea that there's a lot of people, you hear people kicking around the idea that there's a civil war happening in the U.S., and not so much a violent one, but the idea that the ideologies have grown.
It's a culture war.
In such different directions. Yeah. Right. Okay, that works. But the ideologies have grown off in such different directions that they just can't possibly stand together. And this idea that instead of this erupting into a actual war, is it possible in any way, shape, or form to split the country up? into two places, into these leftist strongholds and right-wing strongholds.
I don't think,
and maybe they could
Josh,
even have a alliance in some way.
It's not that bad. If civil arrest and what you saw in Provo, Utah this week, where somebody, spontaneous protest, somebody got stuck in, went down the wrong street, all of a sudden ended up in the middle of the protest, and somebody got shot. A protester walked up to the side of the vehicle that was surrounded by people, attempting not to hit them, drew a firearm, and shot them through their passenger side window. The guy survived, that was shot. The shooter has been arrested. If that kind of a political or deemed political assassination was a regular thing, or started creeping into the heartland more frequently, I think you would have a point, and that would be something we would need to consider. But we're really not there yet. Outside of like 4 cities, I mean, Portland's going to Portland. Portland has, Antifa riots year round just because. Atlanta is calmed down, as you can see. Minneapolis is largely calmed down. I think that this is the idea that we're devolving into a mass nationwide civil conflict. It won't be 2 governmental units, fighting in street battles, but it'll be politically affiliated gangs potentially doing stuff with each other. I just don't think we're there. I live in the 4th largest city in Indiana. If you do a quick Google search, you know where that is. Nothing's happening. Josh, I know you live in the Metro Detroit area. After the first 2 weeks, has anything happened in Detroit?
It's still, I don't know, dude. There's still stuff going on here daily.
Is it any more violent than Detroit normally is?
Violent? No. I don't think the area of Detroit I live in has gotten any less safe during this. But, Detroit's not, Detroit and safety aren't words that are typically synonymous with each other. And I feel like you walk into Detroit and a lot of protesters are going to walk in with their signs and be like, oh, rioters and looters show up to Detroit and they're just going to look around and be like, oh, somebody already did this, bitch. Let's get out of here. Yeah. But, so I don't really think it matters that much in that regard. But
the idea that
you're right.
We're melting down and losing. You're still hearing a story every day because it's going to pop up, and I really think you look at the data that we in a previous podcast together, we discussed the Hidden Tribes report. It was researched by, I believe, led by Jonathan Haidt. He's a psychologist. I believe he works for Columbia, if I remember correctly. Trying to determine the true political leanings of America. Those on the, quote, radical left only make up 8% of the population. Those on the radical right is even smaller of a number. How many of those 8% are willing to go to prison or willing to die for the cause? No, the majority of the people there are LARPers. And the only way I could see that changing, that people are only willing to riot and commit street violence and property destruction because there hasn't been consequences until now. Well, guess what? Investigations take time. They want to make sure they get them right. People are going to start going. You're going to see thousands of people go to jail over everything that you've seen happen recently. How many of those people are willing to, of those that are left, are willing to go to jail, and how many of those are willing to die for it? I would argue very, very small amount. The only thing that I could think would change this paradigm would be either a presidential, Donald Trump gets assassinated, or like Nancy Pelosi gets offed, or a top Democrat gets offed, or Joe Biden gets offed. That would be the only way I could see that paradigm breaking, where semi-organized factions would start shooting at each other, offensively, not in a defensive manner.
Dorf, I absolutely see your point, but you have to acknowledge that, yes, those numbers are small, but they are being publicized more, and they are raising exponentially
well, here's
right
the
now.
thing. What you're not seeing.
If they continue, if they continue at that rate, which they probably won't. They probably won't. But if they continue at that rate, then in 3 months from now, we have a huge problem. Then it really is happening.
Josh,
all that stuff you said can't happen is happening.
As you've noticed, the mainstream media, who's it's eyeball chasing, has switched back to the Rona. Riots are no longer wall to wall, cover to cover, 22 hours a day on the average news station. It's Rona again. Riots 2020 are largely over because they're no longer politically useful for the propagandists. Riot.
I agree. And if anyone out there's...
That doesn't mean that street violence won't happen across the country because it's an election year. It happens every year, always has, always probably will. But the idea that this country will start to get into a hot civil war? No, not this time around. Unless, of course, like I mentioned, there's a political assassination or you could say a mass shooting at a political rally. That means you might see a hot civil war.
But there's a very good chance that's coming. When the buttons keep being pushed, which, let's face it, they are, like you said, we're back to the Rona. We're back on the COVID. That's the hotness right now. But is this cycle going to continue? Are we going to go from this to murder butterflies to the next shooting to now we're doing bigger riots in the street, and now it's getting closer to the election, and now it's COVID-20, and now it's murder hamsters, and now this time the aliens that the CIA admitted they saw, they landed this time, and now we got the big time riots, and Trump won / Trump lost / whatever's next. And if this cycle continues, it will eventually bust. It will eventually blow up.
Sure.
I mean, so we're going to have to get back to some sort of normal here. And I'm not talking about the new normal that that CNN and Fox News wants to talk about. I'm talking about actual normal. We're going to have to get back to real normal here soon, because people are done with this. I mean, now we're going to have a big battle over the masks. They're going to shut down the restaurants again. They're going to shut, we're going to be allowed to get one haircut every 6 months. This is...
Yeah, I saw that they shut down the bars again in your state. So the defined as 75%.
They did.
Or 70 or 75% revenue from alcohol. Doesn't...
Oh, yeah, there is some sort of thing. Dorf, I should know this since I live here, but I was kind of prepping for the show and said I wasn't really.
Oh, it's less than like 3 hours old, so you're not that far behind.
Yeah. Right, and it's so I didn't catch it exactly. It did say something about bars, not just restaurants, but to be honest, I kind of took it as this is the first wave of what's happening at 11 p.m. tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised if in 36 hours every eatery is closed again.
Well,
I don't know that for sure. That's a total guess, of course.
It's stupid. It's data illiteracy at this point. This is what happens when you put, I think we've said, I don't know if we said it on this show, but we said it before. Politics is Hollywood for ugly people.
Yeah.
It's what happens when you put
absolutely
illiterate rubes won a popularity contest. Quite frankly, if you actually look at the data, the average age of infection has dropped into the 30s. The average age of death in my state is still over 80 years old.
Right.
Infections are growing, yes. You are also testing 600,000 people a day nationwide. Young people are finally triaged to the point where they can get a test if they want one. Young people have no problems if they're not immunocompromised dealing with this. So let's get back to normal. If you're immunocompromised, you already take precautions anyway. Get over yourself, and let's go back to normal life.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I'm ready for it. So
yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Let's do a second topic here. I know it's not
okay.
Mandatory mask.
Right,
laws.
No, that's fine.
Mandatory mask laws. There has been a mandatory mask law instituted previously at a nationwide level during the Spanish flu outbreak of 1918. It was never challenged or adjudicated in a federal court, its constitutionality. So it's got fresh eyes. There is no judicial precedent for the subject. In your mind, Josh, are mandatory mask laws, if the one were to come down the pipe, would it be constitutional? B, is it a good idea in your opinion?
A terrible idea, and as unconstitutional as something could be, in essence, in my opinion. To me, the idea that one could state that a mandatory mask law works within the parameters of the Constitution has, at that point, the Constitution, just burn it. It's worthless. It's beyond worthless, and you are acknowledging that personal liberty and personal responsibility have no place in the Constitution. And if you know anything about the Constitution, you know that that's all it's about. That is everything that it's about, is personal choice and personal liberty. So the idea that a mask law is constitutional, absolutely not. Not in any way, shape, or form could it ever be deemed as such. And I'm sorry, if you are gonna tell your people to you must wear masks, tell a free people, free, I'm doing air quotes here. If you're going to try to tell a free people that they must wear a mask to leave their homes, then, I mean, that's slavery, people. That is, and for those people to get mad that they feel like I'm calling them a sheep because they're outside wearing a mask, well, I'm sorry, yes, get mad. Yes, I'm calling you a sheep. That mask is a symbol of servitude. It is symbolic of your submission. It is not for your safety. This is 1984 Brave New World stuff here, folks. Bad news. It's bad news. That's just my opinion, though.
I am, in my personal life, from a practical perspective, I'm wearing one in public, not outdoors, but like when I go grocery shopping, as a pragmatic step to avoid conflict. Last thing I want to do is have an issue with Corona Karen, where because I'm the large hulking white dude, there's a physical confrontation, I'm going to end up on the wrong side of it no matter what. From a philosophical perspective, absolutely agree with you, Josh. It is absolutely not congruent with the Constitution of the United States. It violates a number of amendments. I just can't. And I know that ultimately it will be challenged in court by somebody, and it will be successfully overturned. But in the meantime, in the nature of unconstitutional edicts, they will stand until struck down. I hate it, but I'm just gonna, I'm not willing to. This is not a hill I'm gonna die on pragmatically, even though I agree it's totally wrong. And if I'm not ill or susceptible, I don't think I would necessarily need to need one, but then again, we have children in office who, unfortunately, people can't be treated like individuals. They have to be treated like sheep. So we have to make top-level policies that take out all personal responsibility because, we're treated as children.
Dorf, the problem is that most people are just wearing them for the reason you're wearing. Most people are just wearing them to be rule followers because they don't want the conflict. Because I respect it. I do. I get what you're saying. I do. I do understand.
I totally
you're saying.
Feel that it's wrong and stupid and not effective in the majority of cases, especially because considering, like, I would argue 50% of the population is wearing a ineffective mask incorrectly, like not covering the nose or there's not a seal on the bottom. Like, if you don't have to draw air through it, there's no point in wearing it, except for the blocking potentially of expelled, like if you cough, keeping that from expelling outward. But if I'm not coughing, there's not a point if I'm not wearing it correctly.
I don't know that there's ever a point. And by the way, it's coming into summer now. It was 91 degrees today where I live.
Oh, same here. 93.
Okay, you got us beat. Listen, I was outside all day and this stuff. There's no way you can do it outside. And by the way, all you pseudo medical experts out there because you watch TV or listen to the radio, having a mask on your face and huffing in your own carbon dioxide all day isn't healthy for anybody. There's a reason your body expels that stuff. Okay, so the idea that you're being healthy or doing something good it's nonsense. You're not. You're not doing anything good. So I'm serious, Dorf. This is a call for people to me. If you don't want to be wearing a mask, now's the time to not wear a mask. You said this wasn't the hill you wanted to die on. I love that expression, and I respect that. Well, this will be my hill, okay? I have yet to have a mask on my face ever in my life, and I won't. So they can arrest me. I'm not saying that, 5 cops who are bigger than me can't pin me down and strap one to my face. I'll probably lose that fight, but it's going to be a fight, though. I'm not doing this. I'm not. And I do respect the authority of a business owner to say it's private property. You cannot wear a mask if you enter my store. I hate it, but I do respect their authority to do that.
What about
what I'm doing is
mandating of wearing a mask, or I think you were saying the inverse there, that no masks in my establishment. Let's put it this way: the gun range that I go to on a regular basis, they won't let you in the door with one. They need to know who you are.
I don't blame them.
Yeah. Not to mention that each one of the guys that works in there is at least double strapped, and that they would ultimately win a battle against intruder. But they want to know. They need to know who you are. It's crazy. You look at prosecutors that they're joking about how someone walks. The new normal is walking into a bank masked. It's
hilarious.
They put people in jail for less. People have gone to jail for a long time for less.
And as people should know out there, I think we've said this on the show before. I'm not positive if we said it on the Empire in Exile or not, but if you are a concealed weapons permit anywhere in this country, it is against federal law for you to be wearing a mask. It's there. So if you think the suggestion of your governor or the suggestion of your mayor, or even some weak legislation pushed through by your state legislature trumps that federal law, you are very wrong. You couldn't be more in the wrong. So,
as a semi-new concealed carrier, that's good to know. I wasn't aware of that. I should probably know that. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened yet. Where I've done those two things simultaneously, but that's good to know. Should probably remember that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of people don't know that, because when you got your CCW 9 months ago or 5 years ago or 17 years ago or whenever you got it, why would that be the thing you took note of? Nobody's walking around wearing masks all the time. You never wore a mask in your life.
In most places, it's actually illegal to attend a protest and conceal your identity.
Right. Which, actually, that's bullshit, too. But, while we're talking about constitutionality, but
I agree.
What I've been doing, Dorf,
but that's one of those things that it's never been challenged, and because those laws were originally put into effect to go after the Klan, and now we're being used to go after the Antifa. So people are going to leave that alone, because while it may not be constitutional in the end, it sure is practical. Now and then,
sure.
Before and now.
Dorf, what I've been doing is, because I do respect the business, they have a right to say you can wear a mask or not wear a mask. But I've been taking note of the places that let you do what you want. There are half a dozen places right around me that have had no problem at all with me walking in there with no mask on. And I will remember that once this is over. I will continue to support those businesses. That's important to me. Now, not that my business is going to make or break them, but it'll help, And
but if there's enough people like you,
I've certainly taken note of that.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What was that? I'm sorry.
If there's enough people like you, it'll certainly make an impact.
I hope so. And listen, I've walked into several places already where there's a sign on the door that says masks are required. I've walked in there. I walk in slow, and if they were to say to me, masks are required, you have to leave, I would walk around. I would turn around and leave. I'm not going to throw a fit. It is their right. They are a business. I don't like what their right is stemming from. I don't like it that they are enforcing that right because they're scared of what the state's going to do to them.
It's their business. They can refuse to service whoever they please.
Absolutely. And that's why if I were to walk into one of those places and they said, no mask, you have to leave, I would leave. With that being said, Dorf, that has not happened.
Well, here's why.
Today.
There's another interesting point here. The reason that businesses are unlikely to challenge you is all you have to say is, for medical reasons, I can't. And if they ask you why or to prove it, they're foul of healthcare privacy laws, HIPAA laws. So, just no, I can't. Health reasons is all you have to say. And if they challenge you on it, start recording and get ready for your giant payday. Because they're asking you in public. They're asking you in public to disclose private healthcare information. Whoops.
I've been being prepared to just tell people that I have FAD-induced asthma. That's freedom anxiety disorder. But I haven't really had the opportunity to do so yet. I've also been carrying a note in my back pocket that says I can do what I want. In case someone... Yes, I couldn't think of his name, right? I was going to say the Ron Swanson note.
The Ron Swanson note. I love it.
Yes.
I haven't unironically used that, but I have, I forget what there's been several situations where I come to my computer and print myself off I can do what I want, Dorf.
Yeah, mine's a piece of loose leaf paper. It just says, I can do what I want, Dr. Josh. I'm acting as my own doctor, which I have the right to do, because it's a free country, goddammit.
Good.
So I don't know, Dorf. I do think I think this mask thing is gonna come to a head. I do. And I do think it's going to end with governments making it, states making it mandatory, and I also think it's going to end with cops being forced to make that decision. Am I really going to arrest this dude just because he wouldn't put a mask on his face? We'll see. Maybe I'll be that guy. I don't know. Although I'm not the guy that's going to say, no, damn it, I came here for cheese and I got my right to cheese at Dollar General, so I'm not putting a mask on. If they ask me to leave, I'll leave. I'll go buy my cheese somewhere else. That's how I am. Went into my favorite Mexican place today to get some dinner for my son and I. They got signs up saying masks are required. I walked in there like I owned the place, like I was Boba Fett or something. And they gave me the same, hey, Josh, how you doing, that I always get. I paid them my money. They gave me my food. I don't know. It's,
yeah.
But I admit, Dorf, I am, when I say, oh, I've never worn a mask and I've yet to, no one's asked me to leave or anything, I fully admit I'm avoiding the places that I know
would
won't
ask
let
you to
me
leave.
go in. I'm not going to the big grocery stores because I don't want to deal with, like you said, I don't want to deal with the COVID Karens.
Quite frankly, there may be people that'll shoot you an ugly look or scurry past you, but I think the corporate directive is to not challenge people on it. I mean, you saw
like
the
you had said earlier, though.
You saw the video running around the internet of the boomer going into Walmart and the greeter trying to physically stop him, and he tries to shove him out of the way and falls on his face, but it goes in anyway without it. But outside of that, I mean, you're not seeing a lot of corporate directives saying to enforce that law, because at the same time, you ain't law enforcement. Is it worth getting in a fight over? No, because guess what? I think even the smart people at the top of corporations realize it's all bullshit.
Right. And why do they want to lose business? At the end of the day, do they care if the money came from somebody, a masked person or an unmasked person?
No, because quite frankly, I want my businesses to be amoral. That's a topic for another show.
Me too.
Should capitalism require businesses to be amoral? But or the only morality be the almighty dollar?
Sure.
We should do that. We add that to the topic list.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that soon. I like that topic.
Sure. All right, man. Let's wrap.
Listen.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's wrap it up here. Let's put a bow on it. But like you had said earlier in this topic, though, I have never worried once that somebody from the store itself or the business is going to say anything. But it's more the COVID Karens, somebody flipping out and saying, where's your mask? Which one person said to me at church. I said, I don't wear a mask. That's all I said, when someone at church said that. And I was wrong earlier when I said I'd never been kicked out. I walked into a Speedway when the mask thing first started. The guy said, masks are required. And I just turned around and left. I got gas somewhere else. When I got tires, they said, do you have a mask? I said, no. Said, my tires are already ordered. Do you want my money or not? So for the most part, it hasn't been confrontational or anything. It's just been, I'm doing me, you do you.
Sure.
All those instances happened like the first 48 hours of the mask craze. None of it's happened since then. I've lived my life maskless and loved it. I mean, look at this face. This is what a great topic for our first video show. Look at this face. Would you cover this face with a mask? It's adorable.
Oh, no, I gave you crap at the beginning of the show.
Who would want to do that?
You gotta do something for this video to make my face look skinnier, and I told you to grow a beard.
Yeah, no, it's true. No, I know. I'm like 100 years old and disgusting. I'm totally kidding. If anyone should wear a mask, it's me.
It's not to protect people from your the spew of your lungs. It's from the ugliness of your face.
Right? Yeah, it's just I know. I'm ugly. I can look at myself in the mirror. So do you, pal. No mask.
There is no hiding from this. All right, man. I think that's gonna do it here tonight. Wow. We jumped topic, but I kind of like to jump. So well, you know what? I know we've been trying to find a way to make multiple segments and post them separately. We just did. All right. So let's play this. Get the outro music going. Maybe. There we go. That's going to wrap up episode 7 here of the Empire In Exile Podcast. You find us each and every Tuesday. Generally speaking, posted 7 a.m. Eastern. This last episode was 7 a.m. evening, so I forgot to do it. So for Josh, I'm your host Dorf. See you all next week.